Hello guys, my name is Danny Mac, and in this tutorial series I will show you how I create hair in Zbrush. Okay, so as with anything else you create in Zbrush, the first thing you should do is gather references. So this is the hairstyle I'm going to be sculpting in this tutorial, and the way I would approach this is to first break the hairstyle down into primary, secondary and tertiary shapes. So the primary forms in this case look like this. This is essentially the silhouette of the hair, and so the negative shapes are equally important. But just don't neglect the fact that we're looking at a 2D image here of something we're going to be creating in 3D. So these negative shapes need to be working from every perceivable angle. The secondary forms refer to the shapes that lie within the primary. To find the secondary shapes, I look at how the hair is clumping. This is easiest to see in the pigtails, but it's also present on top of the head. Now when I finally get round to creating this hair, I won't follow this exactly. I'm just using this as a guide to allow me to understand what's going on in the hair. I'm not really too concerned with these strands at the front because they're so thin, and when I get into creating the hair you'll see how that changes the way I approach it. So you'll notice that the secondary shapes sort of describe the directionality and flow of the hair and conforms to the primary shapes. Now, as you might have guessed, the tertiary shapes describe the sort of directionality and flow of hair within the secondary shapes of which they conform to. And this is just like smaller clumps and individual hair strands and even the flyaways as well. The way I have broken this hairstyle down is very similar to the way I construct hair in Zbrush. With this in mind, the first thing I want to do is create the primary forms. The reason I've chosen this hairstyle is because it's going to allow me to show you different ways of going about this. So first, I'll create the hair fixed to the top of the head. I'll do this by masking out the general area and simply extracting. Don't worry about getting the mask absolutely perfect, as we're going to be playing around with the mesh anyway. Usually, I'll need to play around with the thickness settings. This looks about right. For this sort of extract, I'll also turn on double. This is to make sure the mesh is inserting into the head. Don't worry about the extra polygons that this will cause, because you can always retopologize this later. Now I'll grab my trim dynamic brush and just trim away the sharp edges. I will also create a better transition between the hair and the head, before adding a parting line down the middle, as in the reference. Don't forget, most of this is going to get covered up with the secondary forms, so don't feel like you have to make it too perfect at this point. Now I will indicate on the mesh the point at which the pigtails will begin. This will make it easier to add some directionality to the hair. Notice that I'm keeping this very loose for the time being. I just want a sense of how the hair is moving. I'll use symmetry for now, but bear in mind that hair is very asymmetrical, so it's important not to leave it like this. And that's pretty much all there is to this section for now. So next I'll create the pigtails. There are many different ways I could achieve this, but in this tutorial I will use the deformers that come with Zbrush 4R8. First, I'll insert a sphere, scale it down, and then scale it on the x-axis. Next I will come to my deformer menu and select taper. I'll taper it just slightly on one side. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect since it can be edited later. Now I will switch to bend curve, and I'll just make sure there's just a bit of resolution. This looks like enough. I'll probably add a bit more shortly, but you want to keep the resolution low for now. Then I will proceed to start shaping the primary form of the pigtails. If I feel like the resolution is too low to find the shapes, it's at this point that I want to start adding more. For the other pigtail, I can either redo this process on the other side, or I can accept this shape and mirror it over. Then from there I can simply tweak the shape to add in asymmetry. It would be useful to mirror it over with the deformers, but unfortunately I haven't figured out a way to do that yet. That being said, this process really didn't take much time, so starting it from scratch isn't a big deal. Now, one thing I want to take care of at this point is the bad topology that I'm using at the minute, so I'm just going to dynamesh this. And I will probably Z-remesh it as well soon. And this just allows me, using my inflate brush, to just get the thickness a little bit more accurate. As with the hair on the head, I'll now add some basic strokes to indicate the directionality of the hair. Again, I just want to keep this loose for now, but this is going to be a little bit more complex to what we did on top of the head. Finally, I want to create the strands at the front. However, because they're so thin, I won't bother creating the underlying base mesh. So instead, I'll create these when I create the secondary forms in the next tutorial. Okay, so that's it for this week's video. If you'd like to get a head start on next week's, then don't forget there's bonus goodies for sale. These include all 4 parts of the hair tutorial plus an extra bonus tutorial, an ebook guide which works well for a quick source of reference, the hair model created in this tutorial, and of course the hair brush used in this tutorial, which you can also get hold of separately by visiting my Patreon page. Peace.